For those of you guys that don't know, there was a massive duping bug in Ashes of Creation. I knew about this bug on Friday, saw that it was 100% real on Saturday, and by the time Sunday rolled around, the cat was totally out of the bag. I watched as Resna, which is the equivalent to a war-torn African country, go from that to Wakanda overnight. The amount of duping on the Resna server was staggering. At this point, I may be the only person on the Resna server to not have duped. There are some big names and big guilds that are wrapped up in this. And yeah, the hammer is coming down. So what's the punishment? Well, Stephen Sharif has come out with a statement, and I will briefly summarize it. To fuck around and find out is basically what the statement was. He has deleted the characters of the prominent dupers, as well as wiping items and gold from people that benefited from it. This is obviously really good news for many, many reasons, but let's quickly address one of the biggest criticisms of this, and that is, why weren't these people just flat out permanently banned? First offense, you're gone. And I am going to defend them showing mercy here, because I think there's some contextual reasons that change things a little bit, and I think that a little bit of mercy was warranted here. Not next time. Next time is different, but this time I think a little bit of mercy is warranted. First of all, there was already an announced wipe, meaning that we already knew that all of this stuff was getting wiped and none of it really matters. And when you're playing in an environment where you know nothing really matters, you may be incentivized to do some cheesy things like that. So that's one, mark in the column. Next thing, there were already some world boss cheeses and exploits and things that people had done previously in this testing phase to make the game's integrity not exactly matter. This particular testing phase already sort of had some black marks on it and some asterisks next to it. So what's a dupe on top of that? I don't think that many people were genuinely upset when the dupe happened. I know I personally wasn't. It didn't really bother me much, again, because there was already a wipe announced and because people had already been cheesing world bosses for so long. Anyway, there was leveling exploits, mobs that didn't attack you. There was already a bunch of different things. So like, what's one more dupe with an announced wipe? Whatever. And the final reason, and probably the most controversial reason to not ban these players, is that they're coming from MMORPGs where the rules just aren't enforced. In most MMORPGs, the motto is exploit early, exploit often, because for the most part, you just sort of get away with it. It pays to cheat in a lot of cases. It's like white collar crime. You either get away with it or you get a slap on the wrist. Usually the risk is worth the reward in a lot of these games because most MMOs, especially the market leaders like World of Warcraft, there is no game integrity. So I think just firing a warning shot, which is effectively what this was, saying, hey, we're doing it differently in this game. This game's going to have some game integrity, is valid. So I think that this, them banning people and actually taking action is going to have a huge chilling effect on this kind of behavior and is going to keep people on their best behavior and have them a little bit scared that, fuck around and find out. That's the motto now. I also really appreciated how Steven talked about how game integrity was very important to him and how he has been banned from games previously. I think this was a nice little touch just to say, hey, I sort of get why people do this, but don't do it here. Now, I don't know his story personally, but I do know my own. I am somebody that played World of Warcraft like a total Boy Scout for like 6 or 7 years straight. Never canceled my sub, never did anything to break the TOS. I was a total golden boy. But during that time, I noticed that the integrity of the game was starting to crumble. Blizzard stopped banning people for buying gold. They stopped banning people for doing carries. They stopped banning the people that were getting carried. And then they went as far as to not ban people who were hacking the game client to get 1-second GCDs on hunters and warriors. This was called GCD hacking, if you remember back in the Wrath and I believe early Cataclysm days where this was a thing. None of these people ever got banned. So I'm sitting here as an honest player looking around going like, what the fuck? This is crazy. And eventually, when the game integrity crumbles so much, even your most honest players get tempted to the dark side. And that's what happened to me. I just got fed up with the game not mattering and with just, I don't know, I just fucking lost it and I went to the dark side. I started doing arena carries for gold and then I sold the gold. And eventually I just ended up totally cashing out of World of Warcraft altogether. Did I get banned? No. No, of course I didn't get banned. But I never took the game seriously ever again. And I have jumped back into World of Warcraft from time to time, but the game integrity crumbling like that means that I just don't care. Like, I know that I'm just a tourist the game will never mean what it used to mean to me because the integrity is gone entirely. And obviously Blizzard has totally cashed out on World of Warcraft. They started selling the gold themselves. They sell $90 auction house mounts. It's over. It's fucking over. But it disgusted me that the game got to that point. So I just said fuck it, and I went full mask off and started just breaking the TOS blatantly myself. And I hope that we don't get to that point with Ashes, but it's just a slow rot. And even your most honest and dedicated players, if you let it get to that bad, even they will start to participate. Now let's get into some good news. This dupe and the way it was handled is only good news for the game long term. I knew about this dupe on Friday, and they let this happen all the way through the weekend. Now, you might be saying, why not just like take the servers down and fix it? They had a fix on the PTR relatively quickly. Why not just bring the servers and fix it real quick? Well, I think they let this go as long as they did because they wanted to test their own anti-duping systems. They wanted to test their own database forensics and see if they could handle a dupe at scale. And it seems like they can. They have built this game from the ground up with potential dupes in mind. Every item has an item ID, and they're able to track an item from the raw material creation all the way to crafted items. So they know if you crafted an item with dupe material. They know duped gold from non-duped gold. This is really impressive. And this is something that a lot of MMORPGs can't do because their databases weren't built with this in mind. They're built on legacy code that's held together by bubblegum and prayers. The fact that they have the technological capability to be able to do this is really impressive. And I'm sure them developing their database with all of these item IDs and the way they track things, it was probably a huge investment and a lot of work to be able to pull this off. But long term, for the integrity of the game, it's probably going to be worth it. However, we need to put a big asterisk on this because while this is super impressive, this is also the easiest time in the game to be able to implement a solution like this because there's just not much trading happening amongst players right now. Most players are just not trading with other players. The only real trading that's happening within the game right now is largely like gifting, like your guildmate gets something, they just give it to you, or it's happening within guilds. There's not a lot of instances where Johnny sells something to Katie. Like it's just not really happening right now because the economy is in its very early phases. People are still leveling, still figuring out the game. Doing something like this when the game has been released for 2 years is a much different story because now you have innocent players potentially getting wrapped up in it, where what happens if an innocent player buys something with their own legitimate gold that was duped? They buy a duped item. Do they now lose their own legitimate gold and they lose the duped item? See how it gets a lot more complicated when the economy is much more interconnected. So right now, everything's very siloed. It's incredibly obvious who duped and who is taking duped items. If you bought a duped item, you know. Like, you just know with how siloed everything is right now. It appears that Intrepid does log information on trading, so they'll know if an innocent player does buy a duped item with their own legitimate gold. But the question is, can they reverse those trades at scale? Sure, they can do it one by one. You know, if somebody makes a ticket and say, hey, I bought this thing and now it's gone, you know, they might be able to do one-offs. But can they do it at scale? Can they turn back the clock at scale? I'm not sold on that. I think the butterfly effect is going to be just huge right there. This dupe could not have happened at a better time. There was already an announced wipe. People were already sort of not taking the testing super seriously, re-rolling on other servers for like dueling tournaments. Like, nobody really cares that much about the end result right now. So my inner conspiracy theory brain almost makes me wonder if they like sort of leaked this out to just test their own internal systems, because how else are you going to test your own internal server and database forensics without like it happening at scale, right? Like, you have to have it at scale. So there's the conspiracy theory. Who knows? But I'm just saying, like, the timing was very, very good on this. Having a dupe be widespread like this is by far the best case scenario, because while it's painful at first, at least you can just cut the cancer out and deal with it, and you know it's there. What you don't want is a secret dupe that only a few people know about, that just slowly undermines the game for years and years and years, and eventually just has a butterfly effect so large that it's crazy. And World of Warcraft has had quite a few of these, and I'll give you an example. So if you've been playing WoW for a long time, you know that in TBC, the Spectral Tiger came out, and these things were rare. There were hardly any Spectral Tigers. And as the years went on, they became more and more rare until eventually you just started seeing them more and more. Like, you just started seeing more and more spectral tigers. And nowadays, spectral tigers are not that rare at all. Why? Because they were being secretly duped. It's one of the most duped items ever, because it was something that was originally really rare, and then it just got duped and duped and duped. And Blizzard does not have the capability to be able to detect if an item is duped or not. So there's now a whole bunch of fake spectral tigers. It's kind of crazy to say this, but it looks like Intrepid is going to be walking away with a big W after the way they handled this duping situation. Not only do they have the technological capability to be able to deal with it, but the way they are actually punishing people is huge, because this is going to have a big chilling effect on bad behavior in general. If you actually punish people, it will change behavior. So this is something that people are just not used to having happen. Most of the times when people exploit and people break the rules, they just get away with it, but not in this game. So I think that people next time around are maybe going to think twice about doing it. Now, I know that I said I was in favor of Intrepid showing mercy on the dupers, and I still am, but I am very disappointed that some of the most prominent figures in Ashes of Creation right now were busted for duping. We're talking about people that have been playing the game for years, that are like leaders and officers of major guilds that were busted for duping. Kind of insane, guys. Now, I know that we all play MMORPGs competitively, especially on the Resna server. I get it. And I know that there's kind of a gray area on like what is an exploit versus what is clever use of game mechanics. I'll give you some examples. So in the past, I have been known to do some insane animation cancels in Crowfall, so much so that the developers contacted me. Is this cheating or is this clever use of game mechanics? Kind of a gray area. Let's say you're killing a boss and he bugs out at 20% and stops doing his mechanics. Do you kill the boss or do you let him reset and see if he bugs out again? Again, it's kind of a gray area. Let's say that there is an insanely overpowered mechanic that like it's 100% not intended. It's just doing way too much damage and everybody knows it and it's getting nerfed like next Tuesday. Do you still use it until Tuesday? You see how these are kind of like gray areas? Like, I don't know. Guys, this is flat out infinite gold and infinite legendary items. There's no fucking excuse. Like, it's just 100% no gray area, 100% cheating. And it's not like cheating in like a way that only affects you. Like, this like ruins the game. Like, everyone knows this is 100% bad. There is no justifying it at all. It's just fucking item duping and gold duping. Like, I mean, come on, guys. The Resna server is certainly going to be interesting this weekend, and I'm curious how many people are all of a sudden going to be rolling on the Virus server for that dueling tournament, right, guys? It's all for the dueling tournament, right? Oh, boy. To leave you guys on a bit of a cheerful note, I decided to upload these details to an AI song generator, and the results are amazing. Hope you enjoy.
I'm all for any, but I don't care about bug abusing. Exploit early, exploit often is what I say. And it sounds bad because I know people in my guild are doing this. A lot of people are, and the 80% of the people who know about this are doing this, and to lesser degrees. Like I said, I did some for 100 gold and some flax. I know a friend that did it for just like 5 horses. I know someone who did it for like 5 cloaks. I know someone who did it for like 100 gold. That's not a big deal. There's people, I'm not kidding. There's literally people who have full legendary gear from this, and it is so crazy, and it ruins the game.
In a world of pixel dreams we roam, Enveus calls this place home. Duping items like the candy sweets, exploits making legends of deceit. Exploit early, exploit often, in a realm where mortals soften, fishing bugs and glitchy feats. In this guild we can't be beat. Our treasure chests are always full, item dupes and gold galore. From the morning to the night, welfare checks are a delight. Exploit early, exploit often, in a realm where morals soften, fishing bugs and glitchy feats. In this guild we can't be beat. Our treasure chests are always full, item dupes and gold galore. From the morning to the night, welfare checks are a delight. Exploit early, exploit often, in a realm where morals soften, fishing bugs and glitchy feats. In this guild we can't be beat. Patch notes try to bring us down. When it comes to cheating, we won't back down. Shadows move when another sleep, secrets that we always keep. In this game we are the kings, mom's basement and welfare queens. When PvP is near, Enveus disappears. Exploit early, exploit often, in a realm where morals soften. Fishing bugs and glitchy feats, Enveus guild we can't be beat. Can't be beat, can't be beat. Our treasure chests are always full, item dupes and gold galore. From the morning to the night, welfare checks are a delight. Exploit